What's up, YouTube? What's up, everyone? First of all, before anything else, I just want to say thank you to everyone that subscribed to my channel. When I first started this channel, I didn't really think it would even reach 100 subscribers, but I recently reached that, and I'm very happy and very pleased about that. I haven't been uploading much, but I'm always trying to put out topics out there that I think would benefit my viewers. And on this particular topic, I'm actually going to talk about how to save money when you're doing this hobby. So it's not a secret that this hobby can get really expensive, especially for students like me. And I do work part-time as well, but like being a student and not being able to work full-time, you have to be really creative. Before everything else, I wanna just let everyone know that Petals is doing really good. I took out the old Endler guppies from this tank and put them in the hospital tank, and that's where they're gonna grow. That's where they're just gonna stay because they've been pecking on him, and I don't want that. I want him to return to his like full glory, and by moving the guppies, I'm gonna have to worry about that less right now. Okay, so back to the topic. So I'm actually these are just like the tips that I personally use on how I save money. First is recycling your old materials. If you're gonna look at that rock right there, those are petrified wood actually, so they're fossilized, and they're hard as a rock. And I used to have them on my old tank, but I tore down that tank because it's not doing really well. Let's just say when I was starting, I didn't really know what to do with that, and so unfortunately the tank has to be torn down because of the tank not really working out the way I wanted. That's when I was first starting, and I had these rocks, I had these woods, like these petrified woods in here on that tank, and like I just put them in the drawer where I have some of my decorations. And when I started the beta tank, I wanted to have a natural look. I always strive for the natural look with my fish tanks, and I try to do that by not having a lot of bright and colorful stuff in the tank. And so having this wood right here is an added bonus because it adds texture to the tank. It also serves as an anchor point for all those plants right there, the crypts. I'm actually really pleased at how the crypts are surviving. And yeah, another point that I always do, or at least try to make sure that I do, is if I can, if there's a way for me to not buy like stuff from the pet store, then I won't. For example, me, I do love being active. I actually recently just got home from the beach. I ran there, and on my way back to the car, I actually spotted this wood right there, and I thought it looks amazing. It's already worn down by the sea and by the weather, but it's already, the bark of the roots already like off, so there's less chance for bacteria to grow in it. So I took it home with me, and um, right now, after washing it, after cleaning it, right now it's here in the tank. And what's good about this is, of course, it's gonna, first of all, if it's it looks so natural. I really like how it looks, although I'm not expecting it to last long. um, I love how it looks, and it's gonna lower the pH of the water, just because it will release tannins into the water, which is very helpful for fishes, especially like the betta. They live in a lower pH environment, and so yeah, that's an added bonus. This is not the only tank that I have that is very cheap and very low maintenance. The 180 gallon that I have, let's take a look at that. Okay, so this one, the 180 gallon, if you're gonna look at those driftwoods right there, those I just got when I was actually hiking with my dog Pixie. And those rocks as well, I got them when I was hiking. I never I didn't spend anything on those rocks, on those woods as well. And yeah, I just made sure that those rocks are suitable for fresh water, that they're not gonna alter the pH of the water. And I did that by scratch test and also the acid test, and they work out really fine. So yeah. Also, my next tip when looking for ways to save money in this hobby is, if you're gonna find an alternative, make sure you know that do a lot of research. For example, let's just make a comparison. Those right there are floodlights, and I love the effect on the water. I love how it's doing that, like you can see the ripple on the water. And that's what the effect that a high quality, high priced light would have on the water. Like for example is this is a castle right here, and those are really expensive plants. Oh no, really expensive lights, sorry. And of course they're gonna have a slight difference with the quality, but uh, for me, as long as they grow plants, as long as they look pleasing to my eye, then they should be okay to use. This light one is actually like 200 plus, $200 plus. And this one is my older light, and this one is my newer one that I saved money for to be able to buy that. When I was starting the 180 gallon, I was actually thinking of like getting more Kessel, but since I've been doing a lot of reading and researching about like the different lights and the different effects and the different color temperature of the lights, then I figured that there are lights out there that's not gonna cost you $200, but definitely will help you with growing the plants that you want. Of course, a big factor is also the CO2, on the tank. But right now it's not running on CO2. I need to refill that. But anyway, let's go back to the 180. So yeah, that's my 180 gallon with the DIY light. It's actually doing pretty good. Right now it's a little bit cloudy. I just did a water change, and then some like the gravel's been moved around a bit, just because I added more plants into this tank. And that brings us to the next tip that I'm going to give you. You can also use plants from your different tanks. If you have multiple tanks, you can also use them on a different tank, you know. For example, there's a lot of crypts on this. My 20 gallon actually recently crashed, so that is a bummer, but you know, it's another opportunity and another future project that I'm looking at. But right now I'm just thinking that those plants that used to be in a 20 gallon can now go here, since this is a low non-CO2 tank. I'm just happy to have like crypts here that are not dying off, and yeah, I'm able to use them. And also all of these plants right here, believe it or not, I didn't spend anything on these plants, all of them. um, and that brings us to the next tip, is joining different groups, you know, like there are a lot of Facebook groups out there. There's a lot of aquascaping groups and fishkeeping groups out there that are willing to give away plants that they have, and also willing to, and these groups are willing to um, give some of their plants, or trade off some of their plants with you. Some will give it for free, some, especially on what do you call that, auctions, they would give it for lower prices. If you're lucky, you'll get a good quality. But yeah, I mean, like, having that support group will really help you a lot. If you know a lot of people in your area that has their own fish tanks, um, I'm pretty sure they're willing to give you their plants. For example, in my 55 gallon, the one we just looked at, the one with the castles, those plants, because of the CO2, they grow crazy fast, and like every 2 weeks I have to like trim them because they're just growing really fast, that I just don't have any space for them. And like the only reason I'm not giving them away right now is I actually already gave one, like gave a good bunch to my friend, and he's already like growing it in his tank. So like yeah, like I mean, like there's an advantage on that, because you know, like at least you know that you don't have to spend money on that. But you have to be careful with that, because sometimes those plants might carry pathogens with them that might affect your fishes, and that is not in any way a good idea, you know. So also, if you're gonna look at the if you're going to look at the sand, those are actually play sand. I should have mentioned this earlier when I was thinking about the substitutes. And play sand, instead of doing a ADA soil. I do have ADA soil at the back, but like I figured out, you know, I don't want the plants to grow on this side of the tank in the front, so I put the ADA soil at the back. And yeah, I mean, like if I want the plants to grow in the front, then I would only have to do fertilizer, like root fertilizers, and that's another thing, you know, like knowledge is really power, because like reading on forums, different forums will give you a lot of tips. For example, instead of me buying different root tablets, I make my own now, and like in my opinion, they do a really great job at keeping my plants healthy. What I do is Osmocote tabs, and I'm going to show you how it looks. So this right here is Osmocote Plus. This is what I use as a substitute for root tabs. What I would do is I would get gel capsules, and I would just put the I would put this granules inside that, and then I would just bury it on the gravel. In my opinion, this is really good. I've never like I would notice like a lot of growth as soon as I plant them, and it lasts a long time as well. Like I've been using this for a year now, and I barely made any difference in the amount of the the fertilizers in here. So I think this is really cheap. uh, I don't have to go back to wherever and like buy different root tabs, because now I can make my own. um our next my next tip, my last tip, is actually um kind of indirect, but also it helps in saving money. Is to quarantine and do research on your fishes. um First of all, quarantining, make sure that your fish doesn't have any bacterial infection or fungal infection that can, that can spread through the whole tank. And doing quarantine, I'm pretty sure it's not, like no matter how good we are as with this hobby, like sometimes we would, like we just won't have enough space or enough money to like get a different tank for the quarantine, and that's totally understandable. um but like I'm just saying that that really helps a lot with this kind of environment, just because uh, with this kind of hobby, sorry, because you're preventing death of fishes. First of all, if you have expensive fishes like those denison barbs, those roseline barbs, those are expensive. Well, at least where I live, in California, they're kind of pricey. Also, like you won't be scared of losing those kinds of fishes, and also you don't need to buy medicine for whatever uh, pathogen that the new fish might bring in the tank. Sometimes different diseases have the same what do you call this? They always have the same symptoms sometimes, and sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint what the cause of the disease is. So sometimes, in our effort to like make things uh, to like cure things faster, we would like buy the medicine without even like researching what the actual disease we're trying to cure. And yeah, so that's where the research comes, researching the diseases, researching what are good tank mates for your fishes also helps with saving money. Yeah, so basically those are all my tips on how to be able to save money when you're doing this kind of hobby. um, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have different have different tips on how they do it, and that's just mine. And I always love it when people put on the comment section the way they do things, and it just shows how interactive this channel is becoming. And just feel free to do that, and feel free to subscribe. I'm sorry if I'm always rumbling. I'm just I'm trying to like put my thought into a into a more concrete um what do you call this, I don't know, like into a more concrete thought, like I'm just trying to like do that, but sometimes it's just harder. But yeah, I mean, like if you like this channel, uh please feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, or share. If you have any suggestions or comments, or if you see any of my fishes are suffering because sometimes I would overlook that, feel free to call it out. But anyway, yeah, this is my channel. hit the subscribe button, and fish out.